Hello there, From 17 once again. This is my maximum action, no slow motion and no diving walkthrough. So the first thing I'm going to say here, ladies and gentlemen, is I absolutely do not recommend that you play like this, because this game is so much more fun if you don't. But because there's no conventional difficulties, and because the game is really short, I wanted to cover as much of this as I could on the channel, and this was an opportunity to go back through those levels you just witnessed and show you how they look when you do them a little differently. And it is a lot more difficult, but at the same time, if you've got decent aim and you move, you should be absolutely fine. But we start off the first stage here using submachine guns. We've got the Uzis, we've now got double MP5s. A couple of guys come out of these doors. I love these closets, these wonderful... It's almost like an on-rail shooter as they just come out as we proceed forward. And also, if you shoot the cars, they do blow up and they give you 50 points. So if you're looking to squeeze as much points out of the game as you can, shooting the cars is a really, really good idea. This game also has a super cool feature that I never mentioned as well. If you go into the options, you can turn off a lot of things, you can adjust a lot of things like camera shake and the like, and I love that accessibility option. I just think it's superb. But there's something that's even cooler to me. So next to the FOV setting, there is a zoom on your gun setting, and when you put this up and down, it changes how zoomed in the guns in the arm and the reticle on your hipfire will be. So if you like it to be super zoomed out and look a little bit more so like you know, your CSGOs or games of that nature with a very small reticle in the middle, you can do that. If you want it super zoomed in with a huge Battlefield 4-esque hip reticle, you can do that as well. And it changes the perspective of how the screen is zoomed. And I think that option, for people like myself who... I love shooters, I love shooting games, I love customization, I love to be able to make everything as particular and as bizarre as I enjoy it to be, so that it can be correlating to how bizarre my brain is. And when you give me choices like that, I will love you forever, because it's such a small thing, but it matters to people that care. And I care about the small stuff, I care about the goofy stuff, and I find modern gaming, especially AAA gaming, to be absolutely exhausting and underwhelming, because all they're doing is focusing on the things I don't care about, and it makes it really hard for me to say kind words. But I come to a game like this that is absolutely focusing on the things that I love and I cherish, and I have to promote it as best I can and share it with you guys. And even if this video doesn't get that many views, because who cares about this random indie shooter, you know, and who cares about my channel, I'm still happy that I've been able to do it. Because if I can get 5 or 10 people to see this and go pick it up, I've done my job. Because it absolutely demands your attention, because it's fun. And sometimes games try so hard to kill the fun inside of them that it makes me wonder why they were ever made to begin with. And I've had more fun playing this game than I have pretty much any AAA title that's been released in the last 2 years. You know, except for your big ones and your truly grand pieces of design. I'm looking at you, Doom Eternal. You know, it's really difficult to find the kind of flair that I'm looking for, and it's represented here in such an exceptional manner. And if you guys know of any shooters on Steam or on free-to-play or anything like that that are criminally underrated and you think that they're really, really good, please feel free to share them, guys, because I'd love to cover them. I've been on such a shooter tear right now that I'd love for a multiplayer shooter to come out that's worth a fuck, because I'd love to be able to share that as well. You know, as much as I love Bad Business, my channel doesn't really care about it. And it is unfortunate, because it's a wonderful game, and I'm going to continue to play it regardless. But there comes a point where I can't prioritise sharing it with you folks if there's only a small percentage of you that want to watch. And if I can be covering other things that people would rather watch, then I'm going to definitely try to angle towards that. But look how fun this game looks, dude. It runs well, it feels good, it's got minimal grievances for such a ridiculously an impossible person to please like myself. And I'm now running around with an M16 that has the underslung grenade launcher that you're never going to see me use, and it's just because I like to shoot the guns. It's one of those things, isn't it? There's all these fun tools to do silly things, and the grenade launcher here would have been superb, but I want to shoot people, I want to put bullets in bodies, I want to do the wet work that I'm coming here for. And I just like to say once again that the mouse in this game is surprisingly good. I can't quite get the sensitivity that I use, but I can get really, really close thanks to mousesensitivity.com converting it. Here's an example of me just shooting directly at the middle of the screen and getting a massive chunk of damage on Wild Dog. Is that what he's called in the movie? Is it Wild Dog? I called him Mad Dog by accident, maybe. Maybe it's the wrong name. It's been a long time since I've seen Hard Boiled, but it was one of my favourite movies of all time when I saw it when I was younger. Which is interesting, that, isn't it? You know, the influences. I don't know if it's because this game is just wonderful in several ways that I particularly fancy, or if it's the love letter to Hard Boiled, but I watched Hard Boiled on TV at like 2 o'clock in the morning when I was about 11 years old. Don't ask me how that was set up. It was a magical evening that was almost impossible to happen, and I made it work. And it's one of those things, isn't it? Once you watch Hard Boiled, it's really difficult to go back to standard action movies when it comes to the wonderful ballet of gunplay that John Woo managed to capture. And if you knew of him from A Better Tomorrow and The Killer, you already knew just how good he could be. And then when he came over to the West and he made some sick movies, but they weren't the same caliber. You know, Hard Target is wonderful for the shots and the choreography, and Jean-Claude Van Damme with a mullet biting the tails off of rattlesnakes, and you know, you've got Paycheck and Blackjack and Broken Arrow, which is kind of a goofy one with John Travolta hamming the scenery, and then you have The Majestic Face-Off, which is probably the worst movie ever made that's absolutely amazing in every conceivable way. You know, another superb piece of cinema there with just pure madness the whole time, and it works in such a wonderful way if you appreciate what John Woo does. But the double MP5s on here have got... This is another gun that's got an odd-looking laser on it. I don't know if this is multiple lasers stacking on top of each other, or if this is meant to be how they look, but it looks really weird. And then we come into the fish tank area, kick that guy, pick his gun up, break the window here so I can get the double silenced Uzis. Do you know the biggest problem about not diving and not using slow motion when you play this game? You don't have ammunition. You run out of ammo so fast because you're not hitting your shots and you're shooting at proper speeds. I picked this up by accident, so you'll notice I'm spamming the chopper. I don't mean to. I'm in a bit of a shit show here because I don't have a gun. And truth be told, the hardest part about playing this game under these restrictions is your toolkit. When you run out of bullets, you have to find a gun, and because everything's happening at normal speed, it can be a bit of a pain in the ass. But as soon as I get that AA-12 coming up here, it's game over, because that gun is just exceptionally good. But just look how fun this game is, dude. Right now, we're sitting on the release of a video game called Resident Evil Village, and it's probably got the worst feeling sensitivity when it comes to movement, aim, and just general gunplay. It's probably got the worst gunplay of any game I've ever played in my entire fucking life, dude. FIFA's got better gunplay than that pile of dog shit. It's completely unplayable, and nothing you do to it makes it feel remotely good, fun, or anything I want to touch with a mouse. And then you have this game. This game that is worth 10 times of that piece of shit game. And this game, no one knows. That game's going to break records for God knows what reason. It's not Resident Evil. It has nothing to do with the fucking franchise. It might as well just be Outlast inspired by Texas Chainsaw Massacre and nowhere good as neither of the things it inspired. Like, it's a fucking joke. And then the gunplay in this game is so wonderfully satisfying that I would trade it in a heartbeat. If I had to delete every Resident Evil that had ever existed in order to have every game have good mouse like this game has, outside of that one issue I mentioned, I'd do it in a heartbeat. Because all Resident Evil does now is make me sad, and the mouse in this game feels delightful in as much as it's not quite what I'd like. And if one guy programming a game on, I don't know if it's Unity, I'm not entirely certain, if one guy programming a game on Unity can get good gun feel in an indie FPS, you're telling me Capcom can't? Like, get the fuck out of here. What is it, do they not want us to be too capable like we were in every other Resident Evil? Have you ever played Resident Evil 4 on the Wii, Capcom? You can't be killed. You're a fucking lethal death machine of instant aim and zero sensitivity nerfing. And then what do? You bring a game out where moving the mouse makes you want to shoot yourself. It doesn't make any sense, does it? It makes me want to suicide via claw hammer. And that's what makes this so much better to me. You know, everybody right now is whoring the new AAA title that's a soulless, empty fucking cash grab of every other genre it inspired. And then you have this game that is... The homages in this game are wonderful because they come from a place of passion. They come from a place of clear reverence and enjoyment. This is a goofy, fun shooter made by a person that grew up on shooters that had a sense of humour and a sense of goof. And it shows, you know. And it's just really, really frustrating for me personally, because right now I would have loved to have played a AAA title that's an FPS because I'm in such a good mood for it. I'd love to have ran around a Resident Evil with good mouse feel and good movement feel and good sensitivity, but we just simply didn't get it. And it's just the way it is. And people are going to enjoy that game, and fair play to them. I'm glad that they do. I'll be over here playing Maximum Action though, and, you know, having a good time. Because it doesn't take much to make me enjoy your game. It's just about game feel. It's about game feel, and it's about hitting the measures that I value. And at this moment in time, the values that are always looking to be targeted for me are, does it feel good to play the game, you know? I picked up a game the other day that I was really looking forward to. It was called Get to the Orange Door, and apparently this was a Unity game that was designed to be like Titanfall 2. And it was somebody that was trying to emulate the movement, and if you play that game, the movement in it is very similar to Titanfall 2 with the bunny hopping and the slide hopping, which I thought was a wonderful, cool thing, and a lot of the guns looked directly inspired by it as well. And it's a super fast, arcadey, like joyful kind of shooter, but I didn't like it. And I didn't like it because the movement speed was weird. The movement speed of just moving around was way too fast. It made the whole game feel really slippy and slidey. And it was frustrating because the game itself looked awesome. It had got a wonderful neon aesthetic. It had got lots of guns. It had lots of stuff to change. And the bunny hopping was just like Titanfall 2. It was a love letter to that game. And because the movement speed was so jacked, I just couldn't get on with it, and I ended up not really liking it. And it just goes to show, doesn't it? You can have almost everything that I should like in your game, and it doesn't necessitate that I'll like it. So when those games do come up, and they nail everything you're looking for, you need to cling to them, guys. And it's the reason why I didn't like Doom 2016, and yet I adore Doom Eternal. And it's just purely based off the fact that Doom 2016 did not tick the boxes I was looking for. Doom Eternal did. And, you know, there's a difference between Village and Doom 2016. Doom 2016 is both a good game and a good shooter, and it also has horror elements, whereas The Village is just a huge pile of dog shit that no one should ever play in the history of human beings. But Doom 2016 is a wonderful game, you know, it's a superb game. It's just, I didn't enjoy it. And a lot of people, when you tell them that you didn't like Doom 2016, they can't really process it or understand it. It's kind of interesting, isn't it? It's the same way when people tell me they don't like Doom Eternal. When you tell me that you don't like Doom Eternal, it usually makes me think you weren't playing it correctly. And I think that that's kind of potentially hypocritical, isn't it? Because when I tell people I don't like Doom 2016, they probably think I'm not playing that correctly, even though I kind of just ran around and circle strafed and shot things, and did that for the whole game and beat it on ultra-violence. But to me, I didn't like the speed of the game. I felt it was a very slow game. And that was the thing that kind of put the coffin nails in it for me. And then Doom Eternal comes along and it gave you a dash. And that dash and the meat hook made a massive difference. And it's the small differences like that. Like if there was a mod for Doom 2016 that gave you faster movement speed or a dash or something along those lines, I'd probably like the game a lot more. Problem there though is if they were in 2016, it wouldn't be 2016. And I respect the hell out of that game, because it's absolutely its own thing, and the fact that I don't enjoy it doesn't change a single thing, you know? You're not meant to enjoy every game, guys. It's just not the way it works. Life would be boring if we all liked the same things. Would I love to see that? Would I love to see a Doom Eternal? Can you imagine if they remade Doom 2016 in Doom Eternal? Oh my god. Oh my god, I'd love that. But it's beside the point, isn't it? Because it's just... It's silly to think that way. But I do get those thoughts a lot, and I'm sure you're no different. Like, can you imagine, speaking of Resident Evil, I know I've spent a lot of this video shitting on the new one, but can you imagine if they remade Resident Evils in the Resident Evil engine and stylistics, or like styling, sorry, of the Resident Evil you like? Because we've been talking about the Resident Evil 4 remake a lot the last year or two. And everybody's kind of concerned because they don't want them to ruin what is viewed by many to be a near-perfect game. And I find it kind of interesting that they're going in there and messing with Resident Evil 4, because the only thing I don't like about Resident Evil 4 is the sensitivity options, that's it. Like, everything else in that game is kind of fine by me. So, when it comes to remaking it, it makes me wonder what they're going to do, because if you look at the history of remakes, they change a lot. And one of the things I would have loved to have seen is Resident Evil 4 done in the stylings of like Resident Evil 1 Remake. Can you imagine if they made Resident Evil 4 and they stripped out that huge emphasis on action, brought it back to survival horror, made way more puzzles, way more conventional, you know, like tank controls, fixed camera angles, opening the doors and everything? If they just made it like traditional Shinji Mikami Resident Evil 1, but it was 4, and they just altered a lot of the encounters. They made the castle, darker and scarier and less about huge rooms full of water and gunfights, and they just really lent into survival horror traditional. I think that would be absolutely phenomenal, because if you want Resident Evil 4, you've got it. It exists, and it's brilliant. But you can't play Resident Evil 4 in such a strange, detour from what it originally was. And I'd prefer to see that personally than just homogenize and turn it into some Resident Evil 6 travesty. But thank you for watching, guys. That was Maximum Action. No slow motion, no diving. It was nowhere near as fun as the first one, but I wanted to cover this game again because it's exceptional. It's available right now. It's early access. Go try it out. Go see what it's all about. Go talk to the guy that's made it. Guy is a fucking magician, and I love him. Thank you for watching, and you take care now.